Welcome back to the Upper Room. I am Jason Gawaldo. I'm the Director of Faith Formation at Saints John and Paul, and you might remember me from the first week of Upper Room this year where we talked about the wedding feast at Cana. This week we're taking a look at one of Jesus' miracles, the feeding of the 5,000. This is one of my favorite miracle stories of Jesus. It's actually the only miracle other than the resurrection that's recorded in all four Gospels. So this one clearly impressed Jesus' disciples quite a bit. So let's read this story here in Mark chapter 6, and then we'll dig into it. So when Jesus disembarked and saw the vast crowd, his heart was moved with pity for them, for they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. By now it was already late, and his disciples approached him and said, "It is a deserted place, and it is already very late. Dismiss them so that they can go to the surrounding farms and villages and buy themselves something to eat." And Jesus said to them in reply, "Give them some food yourselves." But they said to him, "Are we to buy 200 days' wages worth of food and give it to them to eat?" Jesus said to them, "How many loaves do you have? Go and see." And when they had found out, they said, 5 loaves and 2 fish. So he gave orders to have them sit down in groups on the green grass. The people took their places in rows by hundreds and fifties. Then taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, Jesus said the blessing, broke the loaves, and gave them to his disciples to set before the people. He also divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were satisfied, and they picked up 12 wicker baskets full of fragments and what was left of the fish. Those who ate of the loaves were 5,000 men. So a lot of cool stuff going on in there. I already mentioned that's the only miracle story that's recorded in all 4 Gospels other than the resurrection, which I think is an interesting point because you might hear skeptics say, oh, this wasn't really a miracle, it wasn't that impressive. We know that in Jesus' day, people carried bits of dry fish and dried cheese and whatever in their robes, so when he pulls out these loaves and fish and starts trying to feed this big crowd, everybody felt bad and they pulled out their stuff and they shared it. I dare you to feed 5,000 people with gum and Tic Tacs. Not going to happen, right? So this clearly impressed Jesus' disciples. They really felt like they saw something crazy happen that they had to record. And Jesus did it more than once. He did it at least 2 times. We have 2 different stories where Jesus feeds 3,000 people and 5,000 people. So he did it a couple of times. Pretty impressive story. All right, there's a lot more we could dig into there, but there's really 3 key takeaways, I think, that Jesus is calling us to here. First off, Jesus wants us to take the next step. So what do you do when you feel like God is asking you to do something crazy? Like, say, feed 5,000 people with some fish and loaves. Take the next concrete step. Do the next right thing. All right, what does Jesus have the apostles do? When he tells them, no, you guys feed them. And they're like, you're out of your mind. Well, what food do we have? Go see. All right, we got 5 loaves and 2 fish. Now what? All right, make the people sit down in groups. Okay. All right, so he asks them to do the next concrete step. So if Jesus is asking you to do something crazy, go be a missionary in Africa, or solve world hunger, or end human trafficking, or whatever you think God might be calling you to do, what do? Just do the next concrete thing in that direction. I'll give you a good example from my own life. I met my wife and fell in love with her before I went into the seminary. Now, in case you forgot, Catholic priests don't get married. So I felt like God was calling me to go into the seminary at least, maybe not necessarily to become a priest, but I also felt like he put this girl in my life for a reason, and those 2 things didn't go together. What the heck do you do with that? I could have spent the rest of my life thinking about it, praying about it, oscillating back and forth, maybe getting married, and then someday wondering maybe I should have gone to the seminary. So what did I end up doing? I did the next concrete thing I could think of. I applied to the seminary with my then friend's support. She wrote me a letter of recommendation. I went into the seminary, I put myself wholeheartedly into it, and then I felt like the Lord tell me, all right, thank you for doing that, you can leave. Go date her and discern marriage. Didn't make a whole lot of sense to me at the time, didn't make a whole lot of sense to her at the time, but now looking back, I can see the fruits of that step in trust and things that happened while I was in the seminary that I'm still seeing God working in my life now. So when God asks you to do something crazy, just do the next concrete thing. That's what Jesus has shown us in this story. Second big interesting takeaway here, I think. Jesus likes to work through people. Think about this for a minute. Jesus just performed a crazy, awesome miracle. One of the biggest, craziest miracles he performs in all the Gospels, because it's the only one in all four of them. He multiplied loaves and fish out of nowhere. He could have gone a step further and made that food appear in everybody's hands, but he didn't do it that way. He asked the disciples to pass it out. And I think the key to that is Jesus performs the miracle, but he wants you and me to bring that miracle to other people. He wanted the disciples to go look people in the eye and hand them their miracle food. Jesus works the miracle, but he wants you and I to be the ones spreading that miracle around. He's not going to ask you to do something miraculous, necessarily. He's going to ask you to do those concrete steps. Here, I did the miracle, now you go hand it to people. So Jesus likes to work through people. He wants to work through you and me as well. And the last interesting takeaway here, I think Jesus wants to invite us to think bigger. Because think about what would have happened with the story if the apostles got their way. Jesus, send these people home so they can go buy their own food. Well, if Jesus said, all right, we'll do it your way. We have no crowd, we have no miracle, we have no cool story, the apostles don't feel empowered, they didn't get to see this crazy, awesome miracle that foreshadows the Eucharist. If the apostles got their way, we miss out on an awful lot. Jesus challenges them to think bigger. They're thinking the only way you can feed 5,000 people is you have to go buy food, and we're not going to do that. Jesus is thinking, no, think a little bit bigger. If I'm God, there might be another way we can do this. Think a little harder. Right? So if we do things our own way, sometimes we miss out on things. But doing things Jesus' way, we get one of the most impressive miracles in the Gospels. And they've grown in the process by doing it. Right? Jesus shows them to think a little bit bigger, think in ways that they're not used to thinking, to recognize maybe there's more to him than we even realize. We think he's the Messiah, but what does that even mean? I say that Jesus is my God. I say he's my Lord and Savior. I go to Mass every Sunday, and I say that he's in this Eucharist that I receive. But maybe there's even more to it than that. Maybe I need to think a little bit bigger. So some questions for us to think about and pray over here. What's the crowd in your own life that Jesus might be asking you to feed? Who are the people around you that Jesus is saying, I'll work the miracle, but you do the work. Go take this miracle to them. Who's that crowd? What's the crazy thing that he's calling you to do? And what's your next concrete step in that direction? And how are you sharing the miraculous in your life with the crowd in your life? So this week, let's let Jesus help us to think bigger. God bless you.